Hey guys, it's Lizzie. Today I'm filming with Jackie Angel. She is a YouTuber, musician, and Catholic speaker. So you guys probably recognize her from the Ascension Presents YouTube channel. For my subscribers who haven't heard of Ascension Presents, how would you describe it?
So they're a publisher. They publish Bible studies, books, all kinds of different things. Actually, the first thing I did with them was, before I was married to Bobby, it was their confirmation program called Chosen, and so I was like a host for that, and got to travel all around and do stuff with them. And now they have a YouTube channel, and Father Mike Schmitz kind of started that off, and they're like, we also want a married couple to talk about relationship questions. So we kind of field a lot of the relationship stuff, and so it's great to be a part of that. Come in. This is the husband.
I'm the husband. I'm Bobby. My wife blessed me with a room to do what I wanted to with it.
It's not like I built it. It was already here, but I said
She
you
let
can
me
have this be like your
paint
study.
it manly.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Okay, hold on.
Your love is better. Your love is better than this life. You hold me together.
So we actually got 2 people blessings for our wedding, and this one was from Bobby's brother, and then we got one from our bishop, which was awesome. He couldn't come to our wedding, so he sent us a papal blessing. I'm like, that's awesome.
What is the purpose of sex? Well, guess what? On my wedding day, my husband and I took vows. We made promises. And these 4 promises, the church asks you, they said, do you promise to love freely, totally, faithfully, fruitfully? Why? Because love is only real love if it mirrors what happened on the cross. This love right here was free, total, faithful, fruitful. So on your wedding day, if you get married in a Catholic church, they will ask you,
Taste inside of God above. This is holy.
So currently, how would you define your career and your job? So is it mostly speaking, mostly YouTube, mostly music? And okay, I'm really interested to hear about your music because I haven't heard any of your music.
Okay.
I haven't heard you promote it, so I want to know if you have albums out and where my subscribers can listen to your music as well.
Long for you, I yearn for you. You are my heart's desire.
So after my conversion, I really had a heart for doing youth ministry, and I was like, this is what I want to do. I don't know how I'm going to do it, because I started playing guitar. I taught myself guitar at 18. I started writing. When I fell in love with Jesus, I started writing all these songs. And so I helped lead music at church. I was involved with our youth ministry, and I didn't know if they would ever or could ever be combined.
Yeah.
And I started getting involved with Life Teen and with summer camp, so I was doing that in college. And people from there around the country would be like, hey, do you do girls' talks? Like, do you talk to young women, like junior high, high school? I'm like, yeah, I could. So it was in college that they're like, hey, do you want to lead worship for like this weekend retreat? I'm like, okay, sure. And when you're in college, like even $20 is like a ton of money. You're like, oh my gosh, I can buy like 10 burritos, like whatever. Yeah. You're so excited. And so that's when I started traveling. But I mean, not a lot at all. So right after college, I was a youth minister, and in that time, there was a Catholic label called OCP, and they said, Jackie, we would love for you to be one of our songwriters, because they published one of my songs, and they were like, we would love for you to be one of our new female artists, to come out with an album. And I'm like, I'm a youth minister, like, what do I do? And so one of my mentors was like, Jackie, maybe God's calling you to be a full-time traveling, both a speaker and a worship leader, a musician. And I prayed about it, and I was like, okay, God, like, if this is what you're calling me to do, you'll provide. So sure enough, God totally provided. I moved back in with my parents. Woohoo! But then God started bringing opportunities to travel. And in the last 12 years, like basically in the first 10 years, the first year was like not a lot it was like 25,000 miles of traveling. And then it was 50, and then it was 75. And then there were 3 years that I traveled 160,000 miles.
That's crazy.
I was like going overseas twice a year. I was doing all this crazy stuff. When I met you, Patrick introduced you, and I didn't know you were. I had heard of you.
Yeah.
But when Patrick introduced you, I hadn't really seen you. I'd heard from my friends, and I was like, "Is this his assistant?" And then I literally you started talking. I'm like, oh, this is Lizzie that, like, my friends were telling me about you, like, oh, there's this girl, and she has this YouTube. So I was dying.
I wish I was Patrick Hoffin's assistant. That'd probably be a really fun job.
Yeah. Woo!
So right now we're filming in SoCal. So did you grow up in California?
Yeah, I grew up in Placentia. I know it sounds like placenta.
Where is that?
It's a
Placentia.
very warm, cozy place to live, I always say. But basically, it's next to Anaheim. I grew up in Placentia, born and raised.
And did you go to college here?
Yeah, I went to Cal State Fullerton. My whole life was like within a 3-mile radius growing up. Grew up Catholic, but really kind of just like going to Mass on Sundays. My mom's Catholic, my dad's not. We went to Mass on Sundays and said grace, and that was about it. That was about all I knew about my faith. Right before college, the summer before college, I went on this retreat. And it was like a week-long retreat with all these excited teenagers, and I remember thinking like, I'm either gonna stay Catholic after this week or I'm gonna not be Catholic anymore. And that week, it was the first time I went to daily Mass. I met like all these people who are so on fire for their faith, and I'm like, man, that's the kind of faith I want. Like, I didn't know so many things they were talking about, like Divine Mercy Chapel. I never even knew how to pray the Rosary on my own until I was 18. So there were a few things that just like really changed my life. And that week I fell in love with Jesus in the Eucharist. Like, we were going to daily Mass, we had adoration. I'm like, wow, this is something I grew up with, but I really fell in love with God that week. Yeah.
So then were there any big theology things that were kind of a roadblock for becoming really serious?
Yeah, so I was not taught. Like, one of the things that made me very uncomfortable that week was one of our leaders was talking about how she and her fiance, when they were married, they were going to use natural family planning, and all the other girls in this girls group were like, oh my gosh, and I just had this pit in my stomach, and I felt really uncomfortable, and I was like, oh, yeah, because no one ever told me that contraception within marriage was like a grave sin. I didn't know that, and so it made me really uncomfortable. And that, when I went home, I started researching on the internet, like, what does the church teach about? Because I was like, I don't want to be 50% Catholic anymore. I want to be all in. I want to be 100%. And the thing is, like, the church is not afraid of our questions. Like, there are some religions where literally you'll be excommunicated if you start asking questions, you know? And I was like, I started asking every controversial question. I want to know why the church teaches it. And so I looked up Googling, and then just starting to read books, like as many books as I could get my hands on, and read about Humanae Vitae and the church's teaching on contraception. I was like, this is beautiful. Like, I didn't know the church taught this. This is so amazing. And it actually makes... It puts it in the woman's court of like, it's about her fertility, her body, and the whole purpose is that so a woman will not be used just for mere pleasure. The pill makes it so easy for men just to use women with it's sex without consequences. And so what I was learning was, wow, like, sex has a purpose, and it's not just a physical reality, it's a spiritual reality that's mirroring the dimension of Christ in the church, that life-giving love. And
the world tells us that we're just animals, procreating for the bonding of spouses, and it's to be open to life. It's a life-giving love. It's not just for my pleasure. And so when it comes to dating, when it comes to boundaries, this is what I'm going to say to you. If you are dating somebody, number one, this is what a lot of you guys in this room probably may have boyfriends or girlfriends. That's what you're going to do. I'm going to challenge you this. You want to know if your boyfriend or girlfriend really loves you? Tell them you're going to stop having sex with them or doing anything sexually physical with them and see what they say. Because you'll know real quick why they're in a relationship with you. In 2 weeks, you'll probably know. Maybe in a month, you'll know if they are only in a relationship with you because they're using you, or if they're in a relationship because they actually love you.
The more I learned, the more I like fell in love with Jesus, the more I fell in love with the church. I was like, this is so beautiful. So yeah, I just kept researching, and I'm still doing that till this day.
Yeah, and currently she's doing a series on birth control on her YouTube channel, so that's why you're so passionate about this.
I know, we're doing like a 4-part series on the birth control pill, contraception, and natural family planning.
Yeah, so I'm gonna link those videos down here and in the cards.
The huge screen
that I use for editing, like on monitor.
St. Louis and St. Martin. We named our daughter after her.
Parents of St. Therese.
First Catholic couple to get canonized together at the same time. Yeah, we're like coastal casual, even though we live like 20 minutes from the beach, but I can pretend, okay? I can pretend. This is Our Lady Guadalupe, and our kids love hugging and kissing Mama Mary.
That's so sweet.
I searched for my whole life, but I never found your eyes. Looking for love among the lies won't do. So I kept on waiting a heart broken in defeat.
So in college, I majored in comparative religion, and I double minored in psychology and sociology because I thought it might help, you know, and
No, that's super useful.
And it actually does. It really does.
Right after college, you applied for a job at a church, and so you got your youth ministry job.
Yes. Yeah. It was like 6 months before I was out of college. This job popped up, and my friend sent it to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is by the beach. It was like a mile from the beach. The church like owned a 2-bedroom condo that I literally would pay $500 rent. I was like, this is amazing. And then, you know, obviously paid you like a living wage, and I was like, this is awesome. So I applied, and I got the job, and I still had 6 months to go to graduate college,
But you
it
had
was
your
awesome.
job set up.
I want to do youth ministry.
Okay.
I want to do ministry and give my life to this, you know.
And real quick, so as a convert, I grew up in Church of Christ, which is very conservative, and women were not allowed to be youth ministers or pray in front of the church or lead music in front of the church, like even passing the collection plates for money, like women couldn't do anything.
What?
So when I found out, I was actually at a Theology the Body conference when I found this out, because one of my roommates, she was like, I'm a youth minister, and I'm like, how can you be a youth minister? And she's like, yeah, in Catholicism, women can't be youth ministers.
That is crazy. Wow.
Yeah, so it's amazing. I felt so loved when I realized that they had women, you know?
Yeah, thank God we can speak. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Through Life Teen, I met a guy named Tom Booth, and he...
Okay, so for people who are not Catholic, what is Life Teen?
Okay.
I've sort of heard of it, so I kind of know,
Okay. So some people know kind of the evangelical counterpart is called Young Life.
Oh,
yeah. So basically, Life Teen started. They kind of used Young Life as the model, and they started back in I think it was 1985, and just said we want to do this for Catholics. And I grew up with Life Teen started at my parish when I was in 9th grade, and really it made the faith engaging. And you know, we were going to like youth conferences like Steubenville, and I went to World Youth Day in Rome when Pope John Paul was the Pope, and it was great. I still kind of was living a double life. I was a good kid, but I was still kind of living a double life, like. And there were still certain things I didn't know about my faith, probably just because my family, I just wasn't raised like that. And so Life Teen, through Life Teen, one of the founders of Life Teen, his name's Tom Booth, he's the musician. He's sung for Mother Teresa, Pope John Paul, and I started going to these Life Teen training conferences for youth ministry, and I kept meeting him and a guy named Matt Maher. Matt Maher was there as well, and really was mentored by Tom Booth. And so Tom was like, I would go to Arizona all the time for these conferences, and he's like, he found out I was a singer. My sister had sung with him before too. Okay, and so he really, once he found out I was a singer-songwriter, I know in his mind he was like, we need more female singer-songwriters. And like he kind of took me under his wing as a mentor. He's awesome, and I really became good friends with his family. And so I remember he recorded like 12 of my, he's like, hey, would you want to record, you know, some of your songs? Like he has a studio, and like Matt Mars recorded stuff there, and like so many people. And I was like, okay, sure, you know, and I recorded 12 songs. He knew in his mind he was going to submit that to OCP, which was his label, which was Matt Mars too, before he went to a big evangelical label. And he knew, like, I'm going to submit this as, like, her demo. And basically after that, that's when they were like, they were like, you know what, we want you to be one of our artists. And I was like, what? Like, I did not even try for that or expect that. So
it just happened.
I just thought, like, I'm just writing music because I love Jesus. Like, I wasn't really assuming I was going to do anything with that. But.
So did you do music growing up in school?
Yeah, well, my whole family is musical. We're like the Von Trapp family, you know. We all sing 5-part harmony for the birthday song. But so I did musicals a lot, and then I, you know, played violin when I was in 5th grade and taught myself piano and guitar when I was in high school. But yeah, my whole family. My sister, my oldest sister, who's 8 years older, she was like my second mom, and she would teach me harmonies, and so we would sing a lot together. Yeah. So I started writing probably, I think I remember writing a song on the piano maybe when I was 16 or 17, and then when I kind of had my big conversion, that was when they started, it was like, again, when you fall in love, you just start singing, you know. So I started really writing a lot of music, and some of them were like more radio songs, and some of them were like, hey, we could sing this at Mass. So that's when some of the songs, you know, if they were, you know, appropriate for Mass, we'd be like, okay, let's sing some of these. And then I was actually a music minister, for like 5 years, like after I was a youth minister and stuff, like later.
So you were traveling, doing the music minister part-time, and then at your parish? Yeah, at a different parish.
And so it was that time, like sometimes when you're choosing songs for the liturgy, and you're like, man, there aren't a whole lot of songs that go with this scripture like this. I'm like, maybe I should write one. And so that's how I would kind of sometimes if that was the case, sometimes I would write those songs. Yeah. And other times I'd write songs, like it was Advent one time and I started writing a song for Easter and it's called New Creation. I was like, this would be perfect, like right when the people get baptized and they're coming out, they could sing like the song called New Creation, you know, like I'm a new creation in Christ, so.
So almost immediately you were singing your songs at Mass because you were leading the music for Mass.
Yeah, and I would tell
That's so
tell
cool.
our music minister, I would say, hey, like let me share with you the song, and yeah, she'd be like, let's do it. And so then
That's
you
so
kind
cool.
of not that you test out the song, but you kind of see like, are people singing it? And so when they do, it's like, okay, it's easy enough for people to sing like on the first round, you know. And yeah, so and then those ended up like I ended up sending those to OCP and they're like, hey, yes, let's put this on an album.
That's so cool. So how many albums do you have?
I have 2 with them, and then once I had kids, I kind of stopped writing songs because I have so much silence anymore. So
That's so.
But I have written a ton of songs lately because I basically realized I just need silence, and I'm like, Bobby, can I drive the car to go pick up In and Out, or like, can I drive the car? And like literally, that's when I'll have silence, and I'll write so many songs. I've written so many songs, so I need to do a couple more albums. They need to come out. But yeah, I have 2 out right now with they're on iTunes and Spotify and all that stuff. Yeah.
So for YouTube, it typically takes me 40 hours to produce a video, and we were just talking about how for Ascension Presents, the videos are about 10 minutes long, and it seems like you just turn on the camera, there are not jump cuts, and you just talk. I don't have that skill. When I film my videos, I'm like, hey guys, and I keep doing it over and over to get it perfect.
Yeah.
So how long does it take you to film, prepare, all of that?
So some videos are super fast, and if it's me and Bobby, I feel like we'll do like 1 round, and yeah, we'll stop sometimes, and they'll do the edits. It just depends what the topic is, because if I've given this talk, like I'll stand up and give talks that are an hour and 15 minutes to high school teenagers, and so like you have to, when you're. For me, it's like we've been speaking for 12 years, and so if it's a topic that we've done a lot, we know. But like this one on the pill, the birth control pill, that was probably the one I had to stop the most because I had research. Like, I'm not a doctor, so I'm like, I have to make sure I'm quoting articles that are from like they're from medical journals. So that one they did have to do a lot of cuts because I was like, okay, hold on, let me make sure like. You know,
because you're reading quotes and sharing research, so you have to.
Yeah. But there are sometimes we just do one take and we're good to go.
Because you're just like sharing a story or something. So
exactly. Or just relationship advice that we've given 10 billion times, but
10 billion.
You're like, okay, listen, we're telling you stop dating this idiot, whatever.
Yeah.
So
no, I started doing a lot of relationship advice. It's kind of how I got subscribers and views at the very beginning of my channel, and it got to a point where I was so annoyed talking about the same things over and over and over again. So eventually, you're just, I guess you have it down with what you want to say. When you do a speaking event, what is your method for preparing? Like, how long does it take to research and write and prep?
Yeah, in the beginning, you know, they say, hey, can you come give this talk? Or so sometimes they'll give you the topics, and then other times they'll just say, hey, can you come give a talk? And here's the theme. And then sometimes you really don't even know either of those.
Yeah, most of the time they don't have a theme. That's been my experience. And I'm like, do you have any direction for this conference? They're like, no, do whatever you want.
So yeah, in that sense, like I will just share my testimony, you know, my conversion story, and kind of like what it means to be. I have a heart for Catholics, like to be on fire for God. I have felt that since college, since my conversion. I'm like, I feel like my call is to get Catholics on fire for God. Like no more lukewarm. Like let's stop being lukewarm. You know, the frozen chosen or the zombies, right? Like let's get on fire for God.
I've never heard this terminology.
The frozen chosen. Just, you know, like it's like when I go to mass, it's like sometimes it's so sad. And when people like you come into the church, I'm like, oh gosh, I hope they find a good church. Like I hope, like it's really sad that, you know, like I want people to know that there are on fire Catholics. But yeah, it makes me sad sometimes when like people just aren't singing. They don't even know why they're there. It's a cultural thing. I'm like, no, like I want you to know, man, you are here at mass. Like this is the wedding feast. Like this is your wedding where you are becoming one with Jesus, the bridegroom, and you were the church. You know, you were the bride, the church. Like, and this is your wedding. This isn't like your weird uncle's wedding. So, I just want people to know how beautiful our faith is, and you know, if people just say come give one talk, I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna share that testimony, how to be on fire for God. And if they ask me like, hey, come give 5 talks, then there are points like in the beginning of this ministry, I'm like, okay, well, I have to come up with different talks then, and you know, like what are the next talks, like women's sessions? Am I talking about theology of the body? Am I talking about what love is? Like, am I going to talk about how to go out? What are the charisms of the Holy Spirit? You know, how to live a life in the Holy Spirit. So I think over the years, you know, it's been 12 years now since like full time. I think you're just asked to give so many different talks, and now like doing these videos with like, okay, now I could give a talk about the pill, like why did you ditch the pill and contraception and NFP. So
we use content.
Yeah. So it's like, and then we've written a book, and we're coming out with another book, so I'm sure we'll be asked to speak on those things too. I don't know. You just have to. It's really like the demand. Okay, what is the demand, and how do I respond to that?
Yeah. So not only speaker, music, and YouTuber, she also wrote a book with her husband called Forever. She actually just gave me this copy. Yeah. So this is actually a Catholic devotional for your marriage. She actually just asked me if Trevor and I are engaged, and I got the same question like 2 weeks ago.